Hi, I'm Kenny Shuler. This is my Pi project. I made a RAID array 1 volume and made an Assault Cube game server. Why did I choose this project? I chose this project because I enjoy playing video games, mostly FPSs, and I've always wanted to have my own game server as a kid. Also, I'm currently a game design major trying to code it to cybersecurity, and this allows me to, kind of have both worlds with game design and just it being a game and cybersecurity. I'm learning about the functions of a computer. Next are my ar architecture relationships. First, we have the operating system. This provides the environment necessary for the hardware to function and acts as the primary operating system to manage my system resources during this project. And this project also had the MDADM tool to manage the software RAID and the ext4 file system to manage data on the mounted RAID volume. Next is our I/O and peripherals. The Raspberry Pi manages communication with external devices through its I/O architecture and utilizes standard peripherals such as mouse and keyboard for the system configuration. And with the USB 3.0 bus, it handles high volume data transfers between the system and external storage, and the USB 3.0 ports provide the physical interface for the two USB sticks to be used as primary memory. Next is our CPU. The CPU is the brain of the system and responsible for high-level tasks. For my project, this was processing the game physics and required for the server, and it also manages the RAID logic, ensuring my data is correctly mirrored between the storage devices. Next is the storage architecture. This project implements a specific storage hierarchy to ensure data safety using the RAID 1 volume, which consists of the two USB sticks, as I said earlier, to create a redundant volume. This architecture specifically manages data redundancy, file integrity, protecting the game server files from drive failure. Next is the networking. To make a local server accessible to outside world, the project interacts with my networking protocols and security layers, which allows players to connect to the game server and implements port forwarding and a firewall to safely manage the incoming traffic. On to my procedures. First, I started out with my RAID array, so I had some place to put my game server, it's game server's information, and then I followed the tutorial given from our project proposal, but I started off with updating my Pi and installing the MDADM for the RAID controller. And then I configured my storage for the array by using the LSBLK to identify my two storage devices, which were going to be as under the /dev/SDA or SDB, which one it doesn't matter, they're practically the same. And then I was able to find them and configure them. Next, I had to make the RAID volume. For the first command, it's actually allowing the volume to be made, and then answering yes with a Y allowed for it to actually format it and bypass what I needed to get through. And then I made a directory to the mount, so that way I could have access to my files. And then the mkfs allows me to format the dev file, and then I can mount it with the sudo mount um, point. Next, in this step, I also had to adjust for according to the RAID array append from write space, which is shown on the right. Uh, so I had to change the /dev/mdo when I was echoing to my UUID, which is partially shown on slides. Continuing with the third step, we finally update the MD-ADM to make sure it got all the information from me adjusting, and then finally looking at it by looking at going to the directory of my Pi, which was CNIT RAID, and then using ls to see what was only the lost and found at that point. Next, I made the game server, which I had to first use the Assault Cube GitHub repository to download the initial files I needed, and then I made sure to download the newest version of it, and this was located within my downloads folder, which then I also had made a new folder within my RAID array system called Assault Cube by making a directory torts within my CNIT RAID. And then I proceeded to go to that folder and then move my Assault Cube file from there to my new CNIT RAID Assault Cube file location. I then extracted the file within the Assault Cube file, which then allowed me to configure the settings by using nano config servers md line. Then in this text file, I had to add a server name, description, the amount of players that can play, where this is located. I had to have my port and a master port just in case, and then my IP as a third backup to my location so people could join. And then I had to add this -y, which is my like product key almost. Finally, I had to test the server by using server sh-config server command line .text. The -c allowed for my Pi to actually read the configurations of my server. Now we're going to move on to my results. Here we go. All right, so I have this terminal pulled up with the script ready to go. Here it is. And now we need my IP address. This is so I can actually get into the server itself. So here we go into the game. We're now in here, and then we'll go to multiplayer and custom connect, and then input the IP that we just saw. All right, now that I'm in my Pi server, I can move around, you can pick up items, and even shoot a little bit. And weapons as you want. Pick up better weapons too. Move around, change, do everything. Pick up grenades, use those too. And you can also switch weapons, which is really nice. So I'm going to choose the SMG and have to, since nobody else is with me, I gotta reset my character, which is the only way I know as of right now. And when I respawn, I have the SMG now, and as we can see, it works really well, runs pretty well, and you could do multiple other things, go into spectator, change your enemy team, you can change the mode and map, or set your skin too, and I'll show you the map right now. See, I could have any game mode I want, and any of these maps, see, and it easily changes between those two.
All right, sir.
Okay, welcome back. All right, and then now onto my troubleshooting. I've had several times where I kept on misspelling assault because I keep on thinking there's no second A, and that kind of goofed up my code sometimes when I'm trying to like adjust for when I was trying to move it at first, I had to rename the file. I also had to adjust my RAID permissions by using sudo chmod -r 777 and then selecting my RAID directory, which only affected me for what it was just a little bit annoying because I needed that to rename my file. And then I had to reflash my Pi twice because the first time I just couldn't download the MDADM, so I had to quickly reflash it, get it over with. The second time was because I must have done something wrong with my RAID array. Not completely sure exactly what it was, but I just reflashed it and then it seemed to work better the second, third time. And then I had the problem with the game not downloading. This was because I was given, I was using an inaccurate website to download from. So I just, like I did earlier, was just I went to the GitHub and made it easier for me to just download that way. And then there were several times where the warning messages I was getting when I was testing my server, um, I had to figure those out, but it was just because of improper inputs in the configuring text file that I had inputted in, which I got solved somewhat easily. Lessons from this, I learned a lot from it, mainly how to make a raid, which is really not that hard, and setting up a game server, which is a lot more difficult than I expected. If I were to do anything different, I'd try to like add mods maybe to this game, or just add like a little bit more, because I'd be interested in seeing how much farther my project could go. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else I would change. Thank you.